Hey everybody, this is Mike. Welcome back to my shop. I apologize for if the noise is picking up. I've got my ceiling fans going today. It's about 97 degrees here in northern Utah, so I just got the fans going for a little bit of air movements. In this video, I kind of wanted to do just a quick follow-up. I've had this Bendpak 12 APX 12,000 pound lift now in my shop for about a month. I've had maybe 10 or 12 vehicles on it of a variety of sizes and shapes and configurations. So now that I've got some real experience with it, this is going to be a follow-up to the arrival and setup video that I did about a month or so ago. So I just kind of want to take you along. I think I've got 3 or 4 clips that I'm going to link, or that I'm going to include in this video segment of lifting our 5th gen Camaro. That's about 3,900 pounds curb weight, so not even a drop in the bucket for this thing. Our 7,200 pound 4-door Duramax, which it's still not really, my 10,000 pound would lift it, but it was biased to the rear a little bit. I couldn't really get it positioned to where I was pleased with it due to the arm lengths. This lift corrects, compensates for that. And then our 2011 4-door Jeep Wrangler with the LS in it that's weighing right at 6,000 pounds exactly. So it's kind of right in the middle of the weight capacity range. So I'm going to have a little segment on each one of those to show them. And I think on the Jeep I do a full rise and a full drop, time it. And I'm not going to lie, I was a little surprised because it does feel to be slower than my 10,000, and I kind of expected that because the lines appear to be the same size, but the cylinders are larger just slightly on the 12,000, which makes sense for the higher capacity lift. However, this is a 5-horse pump with a 5-gallon reservoir versus the 2-horse that was on my 10,000 pound AMCO. So I thought this was going to be a good 20-25 seconds slower in full rise height. And actually this one raises 6 inches higher, or excuse me, almost 8 inches higher. This one goes 75 and a half, 76 inches full rise. And my other one was like 66 and 3/4, something like that. And this one does it in the same amount of time, 55 seconds. So I'll show that in the segment. And then the rise was pretty close to the same. It was 32 or 34 seconds, something like that. I can't remember. But it was pretty much on target with my 10,000, even though this has got a higher rise on the overall lift. So if any of you, I'll put a link also in the description going to my arrival and setup video of this Bendpak 12,000 pound lift. In there, I very much commented on a couple of things. First of all, being the arm size and mass. Secondly, was the arm restraint system, which was Bendpak's new design. It kind of deviates from all the other manufacturers out there that use the little concave gear that you pull up on, and it disengages with a matching gear on the bottom of the arms. And then when you lower it all the way down, it pushes those two up and disengages the arms. Those concave gears, gears, I don't know, I'm guessing 35, 40 degrees maybe is what they engage with the gear on the arms. These are a conical style, but they they engage 360 degrees around the top of a forged gear on top of the arm. So much more positive engagement. And after using it for the last month or so, I'm not going to lie, it's very smooth and fluid-like movements. The other style is not a bad design. If you're standing and you reach over to pull up on the pin, no problem. When it's all the way down and you kick the arms, no problem. I don't want to say problem, the opportunity I found is if you're kneeling down you're kind of half under the car trying to set the arms, and you need to pull up on that pin. Sometimes, excuse me, sometimes you're at a little bit of a disadvantage, and you kind of have to jiggle things and get it to pull up to get it to disengage. Whereas this, you just simply reach over and push down on the lever. It pulls up on the conical female gear and allows you to move the arm independently. Very, very smooth, the ease of operation is incredible. I'm very impressed. The other couple of things I like is how they forged in the ends on these, the flat to engage with the flat on the telescoping threaded adapters. That's very nice because you can slide the arm under and spin the puck up and down one-handed, whereas in a lot of the other ones, and even mine in particular, sometimes you had to reach under and hold the outer diameter so you could thread the inside diameter up and down. It had enough drag, and it didn't have a positive enough stop to keep it from that outer diameter from spinning. This pretty much resolved that. Couple other things I like is how tall the carriages are. These are 5-foot tall carriages. My other one was 32, I believe it was, to the top of the carriage. And I'm going to address the one issue that I really had trepidation about in the first video, and that was the location of the motor, the controls, the reservoir, everything on this one. It is 18 inches, almost exactly lower than where my other one was. I had concerns because anybody who knows me, I'm not one for change. I don't do well with change. I get set in my ways and I stick to them. Whether that be a process, whether that be something I own or whatever, an asset, I get set on something and I'm not one to change unless I'm proven it's a worthwhile change. Well, this was one of those times where I believe this was a worthwhile change. I was adamant from the time the columns were lying down on my trailer when I brought them in, and I immediately noticed the mounting location was closer to the base, took a couple measurements, and immediately saw that this was 18 inches lower. And right there, I had it in my mind, I'm not gonna like this. I got so used to having it right here, the power switch, I have a double pole single throw switch to disengage the 30 amp power. I had it mounted on this side, on this face. And I could turn it on and push the button, hold it up, and I just kind of watched everything, and I got in that habit for almost 15 years of using that lift, and it was just second nature. To have it move down here was a change. And I tried to be open-minded about the change. I think I acknowledged that in the first video, that this is different. I want to give it a fair shake. After using it for about a month now, and like I said, maybe a dozen vehicles up and down, and some of those vehicles multiple times, because I wanted to get a feel for the full range of travel that the lift has. So I was doing things at different positions. So I've been standing here at this control a lot over the last month, and I really like the location of this. It's below shoulder height, so if you're standing right here, you have easy view without your arm being above your head. And then also while you're standing here, you can have your hand on your controls. You can watch for things, watch for any interferences, watch for anything shifting very easily. It's a very comfortable position to have your hand right here. So I don't want to say I'm going to have to eat crow, but I'm going to have to eat crow. This was one change that I had in my head that I was not going to like right from the get-go, and I actually do like this location. So Bendpak, if you're listening, I apologize. At first I said this needs to be changed, this needs to be moved. I don't feel that way anymore. I like where this is located. Obviously they probably polled a lot of different mechanics, and I'm sure there's probably mounting locations from one extreme to the other. My other one must have been at one extreme. This one's kind of, I don't know if it's to the other extreme or not. It's definitely lower than any of the other lifts that I've experienced or seen in any of my buddies' commercial repair shops or anything, other than the Bendpaks, obviously. And so I've got to say I like the location. Again, those of you that know me know it's hard for me to admit that, but this is one change that I kind of like now. So even my son adapted to this much better than I did. He thought, nah, that's not going to be that big of a deal. And he's 6'5", I'm only 6'2". So for him, it was an easier reach for the other one by a few inches, but he liked this right off the bat. I was the one that was kind of adamant about it, and he's like, just give it a try, give it a try. Well, I like it. So that was probably my biggest concern. Overall build quality. I think I went over this in the first video, but I am impressed. From the welds, to how smooth and everything operates, to how well thought out all the installation kit was and all the components that had everything there, how smooth in operation this thing is, from the equalizing cables to over the sheaths, to the arms. Some of the other reviews I had watched, they had kind of complained about how the arms telescoping in and out drug, had to have burrs knocked off of them. One gentleman said he actually sprayed in some aerosol graphite in to help everything move. These arms move very, very freely, in, out. I'm impressed. The locks on them are very nice and positive. The arms swing well. When they're up above, when it's up above ground or floor level, the locks engage nice and smooth. The gears are tapered, so when that conical cone sets down on them, it kind of automatically self-aligns to the next gear. Now maybe that's one tooth this way or one tooth this way, but it automatically kind of centers up on it. If it's off from where you want it, you simply push down on the lever, move it a half a tooth or a tooth, and release it, and it snaps right into place. So I really like that. The adapters on this thing are solid. I think I covered that. They are heavy. When you pick them up, don't expect to be picking them up like the hollow ones on most of the other ones. If you drop that, you're going to feel it. You're going to feel that on that lands on your foot. Again, I mounted a power disconnect switch here. The brake is very nice and smooth. It easily folds both sides in and out. It's just a simple, easy, you can almost do it one finger. It moves very smooth. Columns are very stable, rigid. I've had like I said, my 6,000 pound Jeep, 3,900 pound Camaro, they don't even phase it. The 7,200 pound truck, you know, the vehicle itself will rock a little bit, but there's minimal deflection in the arms. The columns don't hardly move at all. The bases on this thing are massive. I really like that. The column thickness and width are very impressive, as is the material thickness. Cables 1/2 inch thick versus 3/8 on many of the others. I'm thinking that's probably a weight capacity thing more so than the brand. I don't know about any other manufacturers, 12,000 pounds, if they're 1/2 inch or not, but this one is 1/2 inch. Most of their 10,000s that I've seen are 3/8. In my overall honest opinion, I would get this lift again. This is a very nice addition. Now they do make this also this is a 12 APX model. They do make this in a 12 AP, I can't remember what the other one is. It's like a TLA, triple long arm, triple length arm, triple telescoping arm, I can't remember, but where the arms, both front and rear, are full length, and they do not have this low profile pad forged into the end. If you work on full-size trucks, Jeeps, anything like that, that's all you work on, that may be something you want to consider because you don't need this low-profile pad. But where I work on anything from small compact cars to muscle cars to street rods once in a while, sedans, front-wheel drive sedans, mid-size sedans, I really needed the low-profile arms. And they fit under, the length is perfect. It's very conducive to being able to swing them into position and then pull out just the innermost piece, the innermost tube, so that you don't impact the body cladding or anything on the vehicles. That's very nice feature, having that low profile. The other nice thing is the front arms where they're offset. On my other, well, I think it's in combination of the offset arms plus the wider drive-through distance. My other one was a 92 inch drive-through clearance and did not have the offset arms on the front. They were like this where they're right in line, so you couldn't fold the front arm back around. So you had to pull the car through the columns, past where the doors open, then get out, then go ahead and kick your arms under, and then back the car up to where it's placed. Usually I'd put the columns about where the dash is, maybe between the dash and the front cushion of the seat, and then go ahead and set up your arms. With this one, I've got so much more drive-through distance, I can fold these front arms back all the way on both sides, pull the car through, position it right where I want it, then go ahead and kick this arm, and it'll swing under, missing the body of the car, position it in place and pick it up. So it's not, it's probably a bigger deal in my mind than it really is, but it was nice. The vehicles that my wife's, the Camaro, a couple of the other vehicles I worked on, where I could pull it in, position it, shut it off, get out, and then kick the arms under. Whereas, like I said, the other one was just another step. You had to pull through, get out, kick the arms in, back up, reposition it, and then go ahead and set your arms in place. Not a game change, not a deal breaker per se, but it is nice being able to have that as an option now. So I'll go ahead and play a couple of the other clips, and you can kind of see on the three vehicles I think I've got video clips of raising up on this list. So here I have my 2006 four-door Duramax 2500 HD loaded on the, or ready to lift on the Bendpak. I'm using the frame style saddles in this configuration because I have a full frame to grab a hold of. I wanted to show you just kind of how much drive-through clearance I have. You see my mirrors. If I remember right, it's like 11 inches. Yeah, I'm 11 and a half on this side, so I must be closer to 10 and a half on the other. I might have hugged this just a little bit. Thought I was pretty close because I've had this once on there once before and I was around 11 inches either. Yeah, this is like 10 and 5/8. So I've shifted it just a little bit this side, but when I loaded it the first time I was 11 inches, so I'm about half inch off on it. So, but you can see the arm configuration, how nice, and this is definitely more in the, you can see in the symmetrical configuration where the arms are more evenly spread out from center. The arms are massive on this thing. Again, I've made that comment multiple times. And also I like to utilize the largest tube as possible. So if you go ahead and grab the arms and you pull them out, obviously the one with the least amount of friction, which is the smaller one, will come out first, and then the second stage. I like to pull it out and then push the first stage back in as far as possible, so I'm utilizing as much of the larger tubes as possible. I do that front and rear. Now, granted, in some applications, like their smaller cars, you won't be able to do that. I think I show on my Camaro, but I can't necessarily do that because the height of that center arm, or excuse me, that smallest arm has to be able to reach underneath the body cladding on the side of the car. So on these heavier vehicles, I definitely do that. On the smaller ones, it's less of a concern because even that, my 10,000 pound, the outer tubes were the same size, or within about a half an inch, I believe, as the inner tubes on this. So big difference in overall rigidity. So let's see if I can show this well enough now. See if I can get this to where it's balanced, or balancing the camera so you can see fore and aft. Now I've got the saddle set right where the frame is before the frame kicks up. So let's go ahead and raise it and see. Actually, that lifts pretty evenly. I was afraid the front was going to lift just a little bit sooner because of where the frame kicks, but it's lifting pretty even front to rear. You watch the arms, there's no deflection on the arms. Okay. Arms are nice and solid, much more stable than on my 10,000 where I had to load it a little further to the rear because the front arms, in order to get them to reach properly, and then the rear arms were only dual telescoping, and I picked them up in the same place. But I'm able to move the truck quite a bit further forward, probably 10, probably 10, 12 inches further forward on this one because of that, the wider column width, the drive-through clearance, the length of the arms, the triple telescoping arms on the front. Locks are synchronized nice. I've been lifting maybe a dozen vehicles or so now, and I kind of thought the cables would maybe stretch a little after a few uses, but so far nothing. Locks are staying nice and evenly synchronized. Make sure this is still showing up in full view. Yeah, it's very, very nice and stable. I'll raise it all the way up and get you a measurement. Now that's not even, I think I got one lock to go yet. I think I have one lock to go yet on this. And I'm 6'2", and I can walk underneath the actual arm and easily under the frame. So with the 5-inch adapters on there in the frame saddle, the frame is 82.5 inches. The underside of the arm is 75.5 inches. Maybe that is the top lock. Let me see. Yep, I'm sorry, that is the top lock. I thought I had one lock to go, but that's the top lock. That's a good 7.5, 8 inches higher than my 10,000, and easily walk underneath it without smacking my head on the arms and having to duck to get underneath to work on the suspension. So you can kind of see how evenly and well that lifts 7,200. Let's see if I can get right in line with the column and see if that will show you. Yeah, you can kind of see I'm pretty much right through the middle of the front seat cushion. But balance-wise, it's pretty evenly balanced front to rear. So anyway, I just wanted to show you how it lifted a full-size truck on the new lift. Okay, so now let's throw our 5th gen Camaro on it and see how it handles that. I'll tell you one thing I do like already right off the bat is if you look at these arms, I can fold the forward arms back and they clear enough to where I can then swing them out and reach under and grab the pinch seam. Okay, 2 things I like about it. I can thread these pads out to where they just touch the body with one hand. On my last one, the body would spin, and I would have to reach under with both hands or pull the arm out, readjust it, and stick it back under, which was kind of a pain. So you can see how easy these thread, and with the flat forged in the arm there, that engages with the flat on the telescoping puck. That was nice because like I say, my last one just had a spring pin that would catch into that same flat, and after a couple times up and down, the spring pin would relocate, whether it be driven down in or up, and I'd reach underneath to try to spin the puck, and the whole body would spin for two reasons. Number one, there wasn't that spring pin there to hold it, which I really like this forged boss in there. But second of all, these spin so nice and free, so much better than my other ones did. So I'm impressed with how smooth those are. So I can slide them under. These arms slide in and out of the telescoping very nice and smooth as well. You know what? I'm actually going to stick well, even in the adapter, it threads up nice and smooth. Very nice. So you can see, even as tall as those arms are, that outer one is still low enough and it's just small enough that I can get it under the fairly low car. You see how smooth and even everything's lifting. Yeah, rock solid. I always like to give them a jounce when a few inches off the ground. Again, the locks are synchronized perfectly, so that tells me the cables are adjusted properly. The locks are clicking at the exact same time. It's nice when you thread the adapters out so you have good clearance under the body cladding, so you don't have to worry about scratching anything. Yeah, this goes up a few inches higher than my last one, so this is nice, and it's firmly grasping underneath the structure underneath here, and I was able to thread those pucks right up to where they were just touching, so that way there's no interference with the side panels, even the front up here. I've got a quarter of an inch. Back here on this other arm, I've probably got 1.5 inches. Nothing's touching, everything's good. So yeah, that'll work perfectly. Nice and even, well balanced. Now let's set up there pretty smooth. So it went from the 7,200 pound 4-door Duramax diesel, and it'll grab even a sports car. I don't know, probably weighs 3,200 pounds maybe at the most. I haven't weighed this, but I know the truck weighs 7,200. I've weighed it. So Well, there's a couple examples. So I've gone from one extreme to the other almost. I've gone from a 5th gen Camaro. In the other one, I think I said it was 32. I checked. It's actually closer to 3,900 pounds curb weight. So fairly light, but not as light as a small compact, obviously. And then 7,200 pounds on my 4-door Duramax. So the Jeep here is sitting right at 6,000 pounds as in travel trim right here. So this is half the capacity. I figured this would be a good one to do a rise and fall test on and see, because it does seem a little slower than my last one. But let's time it and see. But this is pretty well. This one's pretty well balanced. The truck, yeah, it wasn't too bad. The car seems to be a little more biased to the nose. So I was able to load it kind of more asymmetrically, pulling it back a little bit between the columns. The truck I had pretty well centered. The Jeep is dead spot on in the middle, where the columns are about even with the front of the backrest of the front seat. So pretty balanced there. We'll kick the arms under and we'll get it situated, and then we'll do a full rise test on it and see how it goes. But I wanted to show you how much 103-inch drive-through clearance gives you. Now granted, the Jeep's a little narrower than the truck, but look at how much drive-through clearance I've got on each side. That is huge compared to my 10,000 that only had 92 inches. I could not fold the arms back on my other one. Number one, because they weren't offset like these ones, but even if I could have, the width of the arms would have taken up all of my drive-through clearance and blocked this. So this is a big, the drive-through clearance is huge, and also the rise is a big one that big improvement over my 10,000. And I'm really impressed with how easy these arms glide in and out. And now that I've used it a while, the arm restraints, I'm really getting to where I like those. I didn't realize when I ordered, or when this one came, I didn't realize it had their new style. I thought that was only on the 10,000 pounders. So I was kind of surprised when I took delivery of it and saw that it had the new form of arm restraints on it. But so far, I'm kind of liking them. They once in a while on the other style, the concave geared ones, if that gear rocked in there a little bit, it would actually create a little bit of almost like a ratcheting or a clicking sound as you were swinging the arms. I'm sure part of that was an adjustment, but also it was because that arm can click back or can move back and forth a little bit. But on these restraints here, I see none of that at all. When it's down, it completely full releases, and these arms swing as well as telescope in and out so much better. So let me move the tripod here, and I'll get the pads making contact and get everything kind of squared away. All right, let me go ahead and kick the power on, get it up to where it makes contact. I'm catching the rear ones right. I've got a long arm suspension system on this, so I'm catching the rear right at the front of the control arms. And again, a simple push down on these restraints, releases, and boy, they release nice and smooth, and then you just barely move the arms and they re-engage with the gear. So very, very smooth actuating. I really like this more so where you push down slightly on the lever to release the arm restraints versus my other one, and probably 98% of them out there, where you have to pull up on that arm restraint. So, okay, I've got, and the front arms I'm catching right at the frame. So there again, this is another reason why I like the telescoping pads. I've got the rear one just barely threaded up, maybe half an inch, 3/4 of an inch. The front one I've got threaded up about maybe an inch, and then I've got a 2.5 inch spacer in there, so I should be able to make contact evenly front to rear. Okay, let me double check, make sure everything looks good. Very well balanced, very stable feeling. Very stable feeling. Again, the columns on this thing are massive. So, okay, now I'm going to go down to where I'm just sitting, not to where the arms are released, but just to where the tires are sitting on the ground and there's some load on the suspension. Because this is lifted, so it might not be a full accurate test. That's about right there. So let's get my stopwatch out here, shall we? I'm going to go to full rise. 3, 2, 1. Locks are clicking nice and simultaneously. I think I've mentioned that in a couple of the other ones too. So the cables obviously haven't settled at all, or if they have, they've settled evenly. And I'm really getting to where I actually kind of like the placement of this reservoir. I know in the installation video, I had some trepidation over the mounting location, but after I've used it for about a month now, I really kind of like this. I can still see, I can look down, I can see up. My 10,000 pound lift was right at 55 seconds. Whoop, 53. Well, I can take that back. 55 and almost 55 and a half. 55 and a half seconds. So it seems slower, but it's actually the same exact speed as my other one. So let's reset it and do the lower. So we'll raise it up. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Now, obviously, the lighter vehicles are going to take a little longer to lower than the heavier vehicles. I figured this would be a good one to run a test on, seeing as that 6,000 pound vehicle is dead nuts in the center of its weight capacity. My other one was right around 34, I want to say. And we're at 30 right there, so 30, about 35 and a half. So not as much differences, actually hardly any difference compared to what I thought it was. I really thought this one was slower, but I stand corrected. It's no different at all, raise or lower, than the last one. But you can see how smooth it is. It's really, and like I said, I really am liking the placement. My other one was 18 inches higher, and it had a push button. I always thought that it was nice because you could push the button and look up while you're lowering. But this one here, you can place your hand right here, and you have control of it. You can look down here, up. It doesn't really matter. I mean, nothing's really... I think it just took some getting used to. Let's put it that way. At first, I was a little concerned about the placement, but like I say, using it for a month now, I've probably had maybe 8 or 10 vehicles on it, and I like the placement of it. So you can see it's very, very solid, very stable. The Jeep is moving a little bit, which you're going to get a little bit of movement on any of them. But boy, the columns, if I pick a spot on the ceiling like against my airline or something, the columns don't move at all. The base plates on this thing is massive. That's one thing I really have always kind of liked about Bendpak is their bases seem to be a little larger than some of the competitors. Now, I looked at them back in, what was it, 2011, 2010, late 2010, when I started looking for my last one. I was looking at all of them, the Rotaries, the Challenger, the AMCO, obviously, the Bendpak. I think Atlas was just coming around, and I think forward. A buddy of mine up here at a service station has a couple of forwards mounted outside behind his four-bay service center, and I talked to him about those. Again, I have no complaints about my at the time, the AMCO and I believe the Challenger were considered like sister lifts. They were very similar. Matter of fact, a lot of the parts, the pads, the telescoping, all those things kind of interchanged. I believe Challenger, don't quote me on this, but I believe Challenger is now owned and marketed by Snap-on tools, but I've heard that. I don't know. I cannot confirm that 100%. Bendpak seemed like they were just a little cut or a little higher price point. And at the time, I'm not going to lie, price was one of the contributing factors. Now, I'm not saying money isn't or cost isn't now, but I don't think there's as broad of spectrum in pricing as there once was. Unfortunately, all of them have gone up exponentially over the last 5 years in particular. But this, a 12,000 pound lift back in 2010-ish was, I want to say around eight, and you could get a pretty nice 10. I picked up my 10 for mid threes. So there was, obviously a little more than double the price there. Now the 10s are running what? Pushing 8, and the 12s are 12-ish, plus or minus. So everything's gone up exponentially. But as far as overall quality, this lift far exceeds what I was hoping for. It is so robust. The material thickness, the column widths, the base plates, the 5 horsepower versus the 2, the larger rams, the arms. I love the arms on this thing. They are the epitome of beef. They slide in and out very smoothly. Again, another gentleman, I believe his was the TLA model, the triple length arms. And so it doesn't have the low profile section out here. It was full 4-inch high plus the pad. His review was a couple years ago, and he did have some complaints about the arms sliding in and out. He says they weren't very smooth. He had to lube them up with some graphite, I believe, and complained about them sticking and whatnot. I kind of wholeheartedly almost expected that I may have to knock some burrs off or do whatever, but I have done nothing. The only thing, I take that back, the only thing I had to do was on the inside of where the adapters and the pucks slide into on one rear arm, the powder coating was a little thicker, and I had to be just perfect to get the adapter or the pucks down in, and then they kind of stuck and had a hard time coming out. So I took a flap wheel on a die grinder and went around there and just breathed across that a little bit and removed a little bit of the powder coating, and now they all drop right in smooth and no complaints there. But that was minor. But as far as the arms telescoping in and out, they are smooth as glass. I really, really like these arm restraints, these locks. In the up position, you don't have to pull up, especially when you get them. You wouldn't be doing it up here anyway, but even down lower when you're kneeling down to pull them up and kick them. These ones here, you just push down, releases, and they're locked 360 degrees around that forged gear, which I really like. The arms move smoothly. They did come pretty well greased up, so be careful when you will get greasy when you're putting things together, but I used some of the existing grease and just kind of smeared it around some of the other components. Again, I also added a double pole, single throw, 30 amp switch that kills power to everything. So I mounted my hose reel and a few things on here. But other than that, like I said, I would buy this again in a heartbeat. This has been a very nice upgrade to the shop over the 10,000. Now that I've got about a month on it, I'm very impressed with it. So I hope this information, I hope this video was helpful. I'll put a link in my description going back to the installation, the arrival and the setup of this lift. I don't cover it step by step. I just kind of hit the highlights. But this is more of a, I don't know, 30 plus day review, I guess now that I've had it and been using it for a while. And my biggest concern back then at the setup was the location of the hydraulic reservoir pump motor. And that pretty much is a non-issue now. It's really grown on me, and I like the mounting location, the height and everything. So anyway, hope this was helpful. Thank you.